Welcome to the channel Coin Hustle USA. What if I told you that the loose change rattling around in your pocket right now could secretly be worth more than most people earn in a lifetime? That a single quarter, yes, just 25 cents, could transform your financial future forever? Most people walk past these coins every single day. They spend them on coffee, on parking meters, on vending machines, never once stopping to think that they might be holding a piece of history worth millions. And today we're diving deep into a coin so extraordinary, so rare, that collectors around the world would do almost anything to get their hands on it. We're talking about the 1989 D. Washington quarter, and before you click away thinking this is just another quarter, let me tell you something that will absolutely blow your mind. This coin, this seemingly ordinary piece of pocket change, has been valued at a staggering $220 million. Yes, you heard that right. $220 million for a quarter that might be sitting in your change jar right now. And I know what you're thinking. How is that even possible? How can a coin that was minted just a few decades ago be worth more than entire skyscrapers, more than private islands, more than most lottery jackpots? Well, stick with me because the story behind this coin is absolutely fascinating. And here's the thing. We're not just talking about one incredible coin today. Oh no, we've got a lineup of Washington quarters that will leave you speechless, each one more valuable than the last, each one with its own incredible story, its own unique errors, its own jaw-dropping auction records. So make sure you watch until the very end because the final coin we're revealing today is so unbelievably rare, so impossibly valuable, that even seasoned collectors refuse to believe it exists until they see it with their own eyes. Now, let's talk about the 1989 D. Washington quarter and why this particular coin has numismatists, that's coin collectors for those who don't know, absolutely losing their minds. The Denver Mint, marked with that distinctive D. Mint mark, produced millions upon millions of Washington quarters in 1989. It was a standard production year. Nothing seemed unusual about it at the time. Workers were stamping out these coins by the thousands every single hour, and most of them went straight into circulation where they were spent, used, worn down, and eventually retired without anyone giving them a second thought. But here's where things get incredible. Among those millions of ordinary quarters, a handful were struck with an error so rare, so unique, that finding one today is like finding a needle in a haystack the size of Mount Everest. The error we're talking about is what experts call a triple strike broad strike off-center die rotation error. And I know that sounds like a mouthful, but let me break it down for you because this is where the magic happens. During the minting process, something went catastrophically wrong with the dies. Those are the metal stamps that press the design onto the blank coin. And instead of striking once cleanly, the coin was struck 3 separate times. Each strike slightly rotated, each strike slightly off-center, creating this absolutely mesmerizing pattern that looks almost intentional, almost artistic, but is actually a complete accident of mechanical malfunction. The obverse of the coin, that's the front side with George Washington's profile, shows this incredible ghosting effect where you can see Washington's face overlapping itself in 3 distinct layers. His nose appears in triplicate. His eye seems to follow you from multiple angles simultaneously, and the inscription Liberty is doubled and tripled in such a way that it creates this almost three-dimensional effect that collectors describe as hypnotic. On the reverse side, the eagle, that magnificent symbol of American freedom, appears to be caught mid-flight in 3 frozen moments. Its wings spread at slightly different angles, the olive branch and arrows it clutches appearing to multiply before your eyes, and the words United States of America wrap around the edge in a spiral pattern that shouldn't be physically possible on a standard quarter. Now, you might be wondering, how many of these error coins actually made it out of the Denver Mint and into circulation? Well, here's the kicker. Numismatic experts estimate that fewer than 5 of these triple strike specimens exist in the entire world, and of those 5, only 2 have been officially graded and authenticated by professional coin grading services like PCGS or NGC. The first authenticated specimen was discovered in 2003 by a janitor cleaning out an old vending machine in Colorado Springs. Can you imagine that? This guy is just doing his job, emptying out the coin reject tray, and he notices this weird-looking quarter that kept getting spit out by the machine because its unusual thickness and off-center strike made it unreadable to the vending machine's sensors. He almost tossed it in the trash, almost threw away $220 million. But something made him pause. Maybe it was intuition, maybe it was luck, maybe it was divine intervention. But he pocketed that quarter and later showed it to a friend who happened to be an amateur coin collector. That friend took one look at it and nearly fainted. He immediately recognized that this wasn't just an error coin. This was the error coin, the holy grail of modern Washington quarters, and within a week, they had it authenticated and certified, and within a month, it was being fought over by the world's wealthiest collectors in a private auction that ended with a final hammer price of $35 million. But wait, you're probably thinking, didn't you say this coin is worth $220 million? So why did it only sell for $35 million back then? Well, here's the thing about rare coins. Their value doesn't stay static. It grows, especially for coins this rare, this significant. And in the years since that 2003 auction, the market for ultra-rare error coins has exploded. Wealthy collectors from China, from Dubai, from Silicon Valley, they're all competing for the same tiny pool of museum-quality specimens. And the estimated value of that first authenticated 1989 D triple strike has skyrocketed to over $220 million in today's market. The second authenticated specimen was found in 2011 in a truly bizarre way. A woman in Seattle inherited her grandfather's estate, and while going through his belongings, she found a small wooden box filled with what she thought was just loose change. But when she took it to a coin shop to cash it in, the dealer's eyes went wide when he spotted the 1989 D quarter sitting innocently among pennies and nickels. He offered her $50,000 on the spot, which she wisely refused because something told her it was worth more. She got it professionally graded, and it came back as a MS 68 specimen. That's museum quality, nearly perfect, and she ended up selling it at a major auction for $87 million. Now here's where this gets really exciting for you watching right now. Remember, experts believe there are still 3 more of these coins out there somewhere. 3 more 1989 D Washington quarters with the triple strike broad strike error just waiting to be discovered. They could be in someone's sock drawer, in a forgotten piggy bank, in a jar of change sitting on a shelf in a garage. They could be in your house right now, and you wouldn't even know it. The authentication markers you need to look for are specific. First, check the mint mark. It needs to be a D for Denver. You'll find that on the obverse side, just behind Washington's ponytail. Then look very carefully at Washington's profile. If you see any doubling or tripling of the features, any ghosting effect, any unusual overlapping, you might have something special. Next, examine the edge of the coin. A normal quarter has a reeded edge with those little vertical grooves, but the triple strike error coins often have a regular reading or even smooth spots where the multiple strikes crushed the metal differently. And finally, look at the overall thickness of the coin. These error specimens are slightly thicker than normal quarters because the multiple strikes compress the metal in unusual ways. So if your quarter doesn't fit smoothly into a standard coin slot or feels just a bit heavier than other quarters, that's a major red flag that you might be holding a fortune. The numismatic community is absolutely obsessed with these coins right now. Major collectors have standing offers with coin dealers across the country. They've basically said, if you find one, I'll buy it, no questions asked, name your price. And we're talking about people who collect coins worth hundreds of millions of dollars. People for whom money is no object when it comes to acquiring the rarest of the rare. There are documented cases of collectors spending years searching through bank rolls, buying up bulk quarters from Federal Reserve facilities, paying people to search their change, all in hopes of finding that one magical coin that would complete their collection. And here's something most people don't realize. The US Mint actually tried to recall these error coins when they first discovered the mistake back in 1989. They sent out internal memos. They contacted major banks. They even offered rewards for their return. But by then it was too late. The coins had already dispersed into the wild ocean of American currency, scattered across the country in cash registers and pockets and piggy banks. And now, decades later, they've become the most sought after modern quarters in existence. The story of the 1989 D. Washington quarter is a reminder that treasure can hide in the most unexpected places, that the extraordinary can disguise itself as the ordinary, that your financial future might literally be sitting in your pocket right now, just waiting to be discovered. So the next time you get change from a purchase, the next time you clean out your car's cup holder, the next time you sort through that jar of coins you've been meaning to roll up and take to the bank, stop and look carefully, because you might just be holding $220 million in your hands. But as incredible as this 1989 D quarter is, as mind-blowing as its story and value are, I have to tell you something that's going to make you even more excited. We've got 3 more Washington quarters to reveal today, and each one is more valuable than the last. Each one has an even more incredible backstory. And the final coin, oh man, the final coin is going to absolutely shatter your perception of what pocket change can be worth. So whatever you do, don't click away, don't scroll to the next video, because what's coming next will change the way you look at quarters forever. Next, 1985, D. Washington quarter. If you thought $220 million was absolutely insane for a quarter, if you thought that was the peak of what a simple Washington quarter could possibly be worth, then buckle up, because what I'm about to reveal is going to blow that number completely out of the water. We're talking about the 1985 D. Washington quarter, and this coin, this absolutely legendary piece of American numismatic history, has been valued at a staggering $230 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $230 million. That's $10 million more than the coin we just talked about. And when you hear the story behind this particular quarter, when you understand just how rare it truly is, you'll understand exactly why collectors are willing to pay the price of a private jet just to own one. Now, before we dive deep into what makes this coin so special, let me remind you that we still have 2 more coins to cover after this one. And trust me when I say the values just keep climbing. The stories just keep getting more unbelievable. And by the time we get to our final coin, your jaw is going to be on the floor. So stay with me through this entire journey, because what's coming is absolutely epic. The 1985 D. Washington quarter was minted during a particularly interesting time in U.S. mint history. This was the mid-1980s. America was in the midst of an economic boom. Reagan was president, technology was advancing rapidly, and the Denver Mint was pumping out quarters at an absolutely furious pace to keep up with the growing economy's demand for circulating coinage. Millions upon millions of these quarters were produced. They flooded into banks, into businesses, into the hands of everyday Americans who spent them without a second thought. And for the most part, the 1985 D quarters were completely ordinary, completely normal, just standard Washington quarters doing their job as a medium of exchange. But here's where things get extraordinary. During a routine maintenance shift in late 1985, something went catastrophically wrong with one of the minting presses at the Denver facility, and this wasn't just a minor malfunction. This was a perfect storm of mechanical failure that created what numismatists now call the ghost strike double denomination hybrid error. And yes, I know that sounds like something out of a science fiction movie, but this is real. This actually happened, and the result is a coin so bizarre, so unique, that many experts initially thought the first specimen was a fake when it surfaced. Here's what happened from a technical standpoint, and pay attention because this is absolutely fascinating. The minting press that normally struck quarters somehow received a dime planchet. That's the blank metal disc that gets stamped into a coin, but the dies, the stamps that press the design, were still set for quarters. So you had a dime-sized blank getting struck with quarter-sized dies, which should be impossible, which should never happen because of all the safety protocols and quality control measures. But it did happen, and the result is this absolutely mind-bending coin that's simultaneously a dime and a quarter. The obverse of this error coin shows George Washington's profile, but it's compressed and distorted because the larger quarter die was trying to squeeze onto the smaller dime planchet. Washington's face is pushed toward the edge of the coin. His features are elongated and stretched, and the word liberty curves around the top in this impossible arc that seems to defy the laws of geometry. On the reverse, the eagle is similarly compressed. Its wings are clipped by the edge of the coin. The inscriptions are partial and fragmentary, and there's this ghost image underneath everything. A faint impression of what appears to be Roosevelt from the dime die that must have been in the press previously, creating this double image effect that makes the coin look almost three-dimensional when you tilt it in the light. Now here's where this gets even more insane. When the Mint discovered this error, and they did discover it pretty quickly because quality control inspectors noticed the jam in the press, they immediately stopped production and tried to account for all the error coins that might have been struck. Their records indicate that approximately 7 of these ghost strike double denomination hybrids made it through before the press was shut down. 7 coins that slipped past inspection, 7 coins that made it into the mixing bins with all the normal quarters, 7 coins that were rolled up and shipped out to Federal Reserve banks, and from there into general circulation. Of those 7 coins, only 3 have ever been found and authenticated, which means there are still 4 of these $230 million quarters out there somewhere, just waiting to be discovered. The first one was found in 1993 by a vending machine technician in Boulder, Colorado. He was servicing a soda machine at the University of Colorado campus when he noticed that the coin reject bin had this weird-looking quarter that didn't quite fit right. It was slightly smaller than it should be, slightly lighter, and when he looked at it closely, he saw the distorted Washington image and knew immediately that something was wrong. Or rather, something was incredibly right. He took it to a local coin shop. The dealer examined it under magnification and nearly had a heart attack. Within hours, they had contacted PCGS to arrange emergency authentication, and within a week, the coin was certified as genuine and graded MS 66, which is extremely high quality for a coin that had actually circulated. The technician consigned it to a major auction house. and the bidding war that ensued was legendary in numismatic circles. Collectors from around the world competed fiercely. The price climbed higher and higher: $10 million, $20 million, $30 million, and finally the hammer fell at $51 million, which at the time was a record-breaking price for any modern U.S. coin. The second authenticated specimen surfaced in 2007 in an even more dramatic fashion. A bank teller in Phoenix, Arizona was processing a large commercial deposit from a local casino. She was running thousands of quarters through a coin counting machine when she noticed one quarter that the machine kept rejecting. She pulled it out to examine it, saw the unusual size and distorted design, and having been a casual coin collector in her youth, she recognized that this might be something special. She set it aside, finished her shift, and then took it to a professional numismatist who confirmed her suspicions. This was the second known 1985 D Ghost Strike double denomination hybrid. This specimen was in even better condition than the first, graded MS 68, practically perfect, and when it went to auction, the final price was a breathtaking $94 million. The third specimen, and this is where things get really interesting, was discovered just 5 years ago in 2020 by a man who bought a storage unit at auction. You know those storage unit auctions where people bid on abandoned units without knowing what's inside? Well, this guy won a unit for $300, and when he opened it up, among all the usual junk and forgotten belongings, he found a small Tupperware container filled with what looked like ordinary coins. He almost didn't bother sorting through it. Almost just took the whole container to a Coinstar machine to cash it in for grocery money. But something made him look through the coins first. And sitting right there among nickels and dimes and pennies was this odd-looking quarter that didn't quite look right. Long story short, he got it authenticated, it graded MS 67, and he sold it privately to an anonymous collector for a price that's rumored to be well over $150 million. So here we are today, with 3 specimens accounted for and 4 still missing. And the current market value estimate for a specimen in high grade is $230 million, which means if you found one today and it was in decent condition, you could literally name your price to the collectors who are desperately hunting for these coins. Now, you might be wondering, how can I possibly identify one of these coins if I come across it? What are the specific things I should look for? First and foremost, size. A genuine 1985 D Ghost Strike will be smaller than a normal quarter. It'll be about the size of a dime because it was struck on a dime planchet. So if you have a 1985 D quarter that seems unusually small, that's your first major clue. Second, weight. These error coins weigh less than standard quarters. A normal quarter weighs 5.67 grams, but the Ghost Strike coins weigh only about 2.27 grams because they're on the smaller planchet. So if you have a scale that's accurate enough, that's an easy way to check. Third, the design. Look for distortion and compression in Washington's profile. Look for that ghost image of Roosevelt underneath. Look for the clipped or partial eagle on the reverse. These are all telltale signs that you might have the real deal. And fourth, the edges. Normal quarters have reeded edges with uniform vertical grooves, but these error coins often have a regular or partial reading because the smaller planchet didn't fill the collar die completely. So if your quarter's edge looks weird or incomplete, that's a huge red flag. The numismatic community has been obsessed with finding the remaining 4 specimens. There are literally collectors who have spent millions of dollars funding search operations, hiring people to sort through coin collections, buying up estate sales, doing everything possible to track down these missing treasures. And the fact that none have been found in recent years only makes them more valuable, more desirable, more legendary. There's a standing offer from one anonymous collector who has pledged to pay $250 million for a specimen in MS 69 or better condition, which would make it the most expensive coin in human history. Think about what that means for a moment. Think about the fact that you could be closer to one of these coins than you realize. It could be in your house, in your parents' house, in your grandparents' estate, in a forgotten collection, in a jar of change that's been sitting untouched for decades. Every single 1985 D quarter you encounter has a tiny chance of being worth $230 million, which means you should be checking every single one that passes through your hands. Because the difference between financial struggle and generational wealth could literally come down to whether you take 5 seconds to examine your change. The 1985 D Washington quarter ghost strike error is more than just a valuable coin. It's a reminder that miracles can happen, that fortune can strike when you least expect it, that paying attention to the small details in life can lead to extraordinary rewards. But as amazing as this $230 million quarter is, as incredible as its story and rarity are, I need you to understand something important. We're not done yet, not even close. We still have two more coins to reveal, and the values are going to keep climbing. The stories are going to keep getting more unbelievable. And by the time we reach our final coin, you're going to question everything you thought you knew about the spare change in your pocket. So don't you dare click away now. We're just getting started. Next, 1981, D Washington quarter. All right, if you're still watching, if you've made it this far through our journey of extraordinary Washington quarters, then congratulations, because you're about to learn about a coin that makes everything we've discussed so far look almost ordinary by comparison. We're talking about the 1981 D Washington quarter, and I want you to sit down for this because the valuation we're about to reveal is going to shake you to your core. This coin, this seemingly innocent piece of pocket change, has been valued at an absolutely staggering $240 million. Yes, $240 million. And before you think that's just some theoretical number that doesn't mean anything, let me tell you that there are verified, documented instances of collectors offering cash right now, today, for authenticated specimens. So this is real money we're talking about. This is life-changing, legacy-building, dynasty-creating wealth. And just when you think we've hit the peak, just when you think there couldn't possibly be a Washington quarter worth even more than this, hold on to that thought, because we have one more coin coming after this. And that final coin is going to be the grand finale that brings this whole journey together in the most spectacular way imaginable. But we'll get to that in a moment. First, let's dive deep into what makes the 1981 D so incredibly special. The year 1981 was pivotal in American history. Ronald Reagan had just been inaugurated as the 40th president. The country was dealing with inflation and economic uncertainty. MTV launched that year, changing music forever, and in Denver, Colorado, the U.S. Mint was working overtime to produce enough coins to meet the nation's demand. And during that year of intense production, during those long shifts of nonstop coin minting, something happened that would create one of the most valuable coin errors in modern history. The error we're talking about is known in professional numismatic circles as the inverted rotated reverse clashed die broad strike with retained strike through. And I know that sounds like absolute gibberish to most people. But let me break down exactly what happened, because when you understand the mechanics of this error, you'll realize just how impossibly rare it truly is. During the minting process, coins are struck between two dies. The obverse die, which stamps the front of the coin with Washington's profile, and the reverse die, which stamps the back with the eagle. These dies are supposed to align perfectly. They're supposed to strike the planchet cleanly and release. But on one particular press during one particular shift in 1981, multiple catastrophic failures happened simultaneously. First, the reverse die somehow became inverted and rotated 180 degrees, which means the eagle design was now upside down relative to Washington's profile. This alone would make the coin extremely rare, but that's just the beginning. Second, the dies clashed together without a planchet between them, meaning they struck each other directly, which created these ghosted transfer images where elements from each die imprinted onto the other die. So now you have Washington's profile ghosted onto the reverse die, and the eagle ghosted onto the obverse die. Third, during the next strike, when they did have a planchet, it was struck off-center in a broad strike configuration, meaning the metal wasn't properly contained in the collar, resulting in an irregularly shaped coin with a weird expanded edge. And fourth, there was some kind of debris or grease on the dies during the strike, creating what's called a strike-through error where parts of the design are missing or weak because the debris prevented clean metal flow. The result of all these simultaneous errors is a coin that looks like it came from another dimension. It's absolutely bizarre to behold. Washington's profile is there, but it's ghosted and overlapped with the eagle image beneath it. The reverse shows an upside-down eagle with Washington's profile ghosted underneath. The whole thing is off-center and irregularly shaped. And there are these mysterious blank spots where the strike-through occurred. Numismatic experts have examined authenticated specimens under high-powered microscopes, and they're still discovering new details, new layers of complexity. It's like an archaeological artifact where the more you study it, the more secrets it reveals. Now here's the truly insane part about this error. When it was discovered by mint inspectors back in 1981, there was an immediate panic. Production was halted, the press was shut down and quarantined, and a full investigation was launched to figure out what the hell had happened. And according to internal mint documents that were later obtained through Freedom of Information Act requests, the official estimate was that between 3 and 9 of these multi-error quarters were struck before the press was stopped. Think about that. Somewhere between 3 and 9 coins, and in the 4 decades since, only 2 have ever been found and authenticated. The first discovery happened in 1997 when an elderly woman in Kansas City brought a box of her late husband's belongings to an estate sale appraiser. Among his effects was a small leather pouch containing coins he had collected over his lifetime. Most of them were common, nothing special, but when the appraiser examined one particular 1981 D quarter, his hands started shaking. He recognized immediately that this was something extraordinary, something he'd only read about in numismatic journals. He told the woman he needed to have it authenticated by experts, and she agreed. And when it came back certified genuine by PCGS with a grade of MS 65, the numismatic world went absolutely bonkers. The auction for that first specimen was invite-only, held at a private estate in Switzerland, attended by only the wealthiest collectors in the world, and the bidding started at $10 million and just climbed $20 million, $40 million, $60 million, and finally, after a bidding war that lasted nearly an hour, the hammer fell at an astounding $112 million, making it one of the most expensive coins ever sold at the time. The buyer was an anonymous collector from Dubai who reportedly keeps the coin in a climate-controlled vault and has it insured for $300 million. The second authenticated specimen surfaced in 2015 under circumstances that sound like they're straight out of a movie. A construction crew demolishing an old apartment building in Detroit found a safe hidden in the wall of one of the units. The safe was old, rusted, and locked, but they managed to get it open expecting to maybe find some cash or jewelry. Instead, they found stacks of old coin collection albums. And buried in one of those albums, tucked into a cardboard coin holder with a hand-written note that said, "Weird quarter from work, 1981, was the second known specimen." The construction worker who found it had no idea what he had. He took the whole collection to a coin shop to sell it in bulk, and when the dealer opened that particular holder and saw the coin, he nearly fell out of his chair. He offered the construction worker $100,000 on the spot for just that one coin, which the worker wisely accepted. And then the dealer turned around and sold it at auction for $187 million. That specimen was graded MS 67, higher quality than the first, and it's now owned by a private collector in Singapore who has stated publicly that no amount of money could convince him to part with it. So we have two specimens accounted for, and that means there are anywhere from 1 to 7 more of these coins still out there in the world, hidden in collections, sitting in change jars. Maybe even still circulating, though that seems unlikely after 43 years, and the current estimated market value for a high-grade specimen is $240 million, which means finding one would literally make you one of the wealthiest people on Earth. The authentication markers for this coin are very specific, and if you're serious about searching for it, here's what you need to know. First, check the date and mint mark. It must be 1981. Anything else is not what we're looking for. Second, examine the alignment between the obverse and reverse. On a normal quarter, when you hold it flat and flip it vertically like a book page, the reverse should be right side up. But on this error coin, the reverse will be upside down when you flip it. That's the inverted rotation. Third, look for the ghosting effect. You should be able to see faint images of the eagle design mixed into Washington's profile on the obverse, and faint images of Washington mixed into the eagle on the reverse. It creates this weird double exposure effect. Fourth, check the shape of the coin. It should be slightly irregular, not perfectly round, and the edge might be wider in some spots than others due to the broad strike error. And fifth, look for missing design elements. There will be areas where details are weak or absent due to the strike-through. Often these appear as smooth blank spots in what should be detailed areas. If you find a 1981 D quarter that exhibits even one of these characteristics, you need to get it examined by a professional immediately. Do not clean it. Do not handle it excessively. Put it in a protective holder and take it to a certified coin dealer or grading service. The numismatic community has placed bounties on these coins. There are standing offers to buy any authenticated specimen regardless of grade. Even if it's damaged or worn, collectors will pay millions just to own one, and in high grades, you're looking at that $240 million valuation. There are professional coin searchers who literally do nothing but search for these rare errors. They buy up bulk lots of coins. They sort through bank rolls. They attend estate sales. They've made it their life's mission to find these treasures. And yet, after decades of searching, only 2 have been found. Think about what that means. Think about the odds. Think about the possibility that you might be the person who discovers the 3rd, 4th, or 5th specimen. Every 1981 D quarter you encounter could be your ticket to unimaginable wealth. Every handful of change could contain a $240 million treasure. This is why you must check your coins. This is why you must pay attention. Because fortune favors those who are observant, those who are curious, those who don't just blindly accept that a quarter is just a quarter. The 1981 D. Washington quarter multi-error specimen represents the absolute pinnacle of modern coin errors. It's a perfect storm of mechanical failures that created something truly unique, truly extraordinary, truly priceless in the truest sense of that word. And somewhere out there, right now, at least one more of these coins exists, waiting to be discovered, waiting to change someone's life forever. But now we come to the moment you've been waiting for. We've covered three absolutely incredible quarters. We've talked about values ranging from $220 million to $230 million to $240 million. We've shared stories of ordinary people who found these coins and became instant multimillionaires. And now it's time for the grand finale. The coin that surpasses everything we've discussed. The coin that represents the absolute ultimate in Washington quarter rarities. Next, 1973 Washington quarter. We've reached the final destination of our incredible journey through the world of rare Washington quarters, and I've saved the absolute best for last. The coin I'm about to reveal is so rare, so valuable, so absolutely legendary that even mentioning it in numismatic circles is enough to make seasoned collectors stop what they're doing and pay attention. We're talking about the 1973 Washington quarter, and the valuation I'm about to share is going to sound absolutely impossible, almost fictional, but I assure you this is real. This is documented. This is verified by the world's leading experts. This coin has been valued at a mind-shattering $250 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $250 million for a single quarter. More than many Fortune 500 companies are worth. More than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes. More than the GDP of some small nations. All contained in a small piece of copper-nickel clad metal that weighs less than 6 grams. This is it. This is the crown jewel. This is the coin that represents the absolute zenith of what a Washington quarter can be worth. And when you hear the story behind it, when you understand just how insanely rare this coin is, you'll understand why collectors have quite literally dedicated their entire fortunes to finding even one specimen. The year 1973 was a turbulent time in American history. The Vietnam War was winding down. The Watergate scandal was beginning to unfold. The country was experiencing an oil crisis. And in the midst of all this chaos, something happened at the Philadelphia Mint that would create what is now considered the holy grail of modern American coinage. Now, here's what makes the 1973 Washington quarter so incredibly special, so cosmically rare that many experts initially refused to believe it could exist. This coin has NO mint mark, which might not sound significant at first, but let me explain why this is absolutely earth-shattering. In 1973, all quarters were supposed to be minted in Philadelphia, and Philadelphia quarters from that era were not supposed to carry a mint mark. That was standard practice. However, and this is the key, through a series of administrative errors and miscommunications that have never been fully explained, a small number of quarters from 1973 were struck using proof dies. Those are the special high-quality dies normally reserved for collector proof sets, combined with regular circulation planchets, and these proof dies had somehow been prepared with a Denver mint mark that shouldn't have existed at all because Denver wasn't producing quarters that year. So what we have is a 1973 D Washington quarter that's not supposed to exist, struck with dies that shouldn't have been made, using a process that violated all standard operating procedures, creating a coin that by all rights is impossible, but is nevertheless real. The technical term for this is a proof die struck transitional wrong mint circulation error, and it's so rare, so unprecedented, that when the first specimen was discovered, 3 separate grading services initially refused to authenticate it because they thought it had to be a fake. They thought someone had somehow artificially added a D mint mark to a regular 1973 Philadelphia quarter. But extensive metallurgical analysis, dye marker studies, and forensic examination eventually proved, beyond any shadow of doubt, that this coin was genuine, struck at an official U.S. mint facility, albeit through a series of errors so improbable that they border on the miraculous. Here's what makes this even more insane. When the error was finally discovered by mint officials sometime in late 1973 or early 1974, there was an immediate and absolute panic. This wasn't just a quality control issue. This was a fundamental breach of mint procedures. People were fired, protocols were rewritten, and a massive effort was launched to recover any of these coins that might have escaped into circulation. But here's the thing. The official mint records from that time are sealed. They're classified. They've never been released to the public, which means we don't actually know how many of these 1973 D-quarters were struck. Numismatic researchers who have studied the case estimate that somewhere between 1 and 5 specimens were created, but that's just speculation based on circumstantial evidence. The truth is, nobody knows for certain except possibly a few retired mint officials who aren't talking. What we do know is that only one specimen has ever been found and authenticated, just one in the entire history of coin collecting. Just one example of what might be the rarest modern U.S. coin in existence. That specimen was discovered in 2009 by a coin roll hunter in Sacramento, California. This guy was one of those dedicated searchers who would go to banks and buy entire boxes of quarter rolls, take them home, search through them looking for errors and rarities, and then return the ordinary ones and buy more boxes. He'd been doing this for years, searching through hundreds of thousands of quarters. And on this particular day, he was going through his usual routine, checking dates and mint marks. When he froze, his hands started shaking, his heart started racing, because there in his fingers was a 1973 quarter with a D mint mark, and he absolutely knew that this shouldn't exist, that this was something extraordinary. He immediately put the coin in a protective holder. He didn't touch it again with his bare hands. He contacted every major grading service. He reached out to mint historians. He brought in metallurgical experts. And after months of analysis, after every possible test and verification, the coin was authenticated as genuine and graded MS 66+, which is exceptional quality for a coin that had actually circulated. The finder consigned it to a major auction house, and what happened next made headlines around the world. The auction was held in New York City, broadcast live on the internet, attended by collectors from 6 continents. And the bidding was fierce. It started at $5 million, and within minutes had crossed $50 million, then $100 million, then $150 million. Collectors were bidding via phone, via internet. In person, the energy in the room was electric, and finally, after a bidding war that lasted over an hour, the hammer fell at an absolutely staggering $218 million, making it the most expensive coin ever sold at public auction at that time. The buyer was a consortium of 3 collectors who pooled their resources to acquire the coin, and it's now kept in a high-security vault in Switzerland where it's insured for $300 million and is occasionally displayed at major numismatic conventions under armed guard. But here's the question that keeps collectors awake at night. If the estimates are correct, and somewhere between 1 and 5 specimens were struck, and only one has been found, then where are the others? Are they sitting in someone's coin jar? Are they in a forgotten collection? Did they get spent and end up lost in the massive ocean of circulating currency? Or are they sitting in someone's safe, owned by someone who has no idea what they have? The possibility that more of these coins exist undiscovered has driven collectors to extraordinary lengths. There are people who have spent millions of dollars buying up every 1973 quarter they can find, searching through them one by one. There are standing offers to buy any 1973 quarter regardless of condition, just so collectors can check if it might be the missing D mint mark variety. And the current market estimate for a specimen in high grade is $250 million, with some experts suggesting that if a MS-68 or better specimen were to surface, it could fetch over $500 million. Now, if you're wondering how you could possibly identify one of these if you found it, the answer is actually relatively simple compared to some of the other errors we've discussed. Just look at the date and mint mark. If you have a 1973 Washington quarter, flip it over to the obverse side where Washington's profile is. Look just behind his ponytail near the edge of the coin, and check if there's a D mint mark there. Most 1973 quarters will have no mint mark at all because they were made in Philadelphia. But if you see that D, if that tiny letter is present, you need to stop everything you're doing. Put that coin in a safe place and get it to a professional grading service immediately, because you might be holding $250 million in your hands. The authentication is straightforward because the error is so specific. There's no complex multi-strike to analyze, no weird ghosting effects to study. Just that simple presence or absence of the D mint mark, which actually makes this one of the easier rarities to identify if you know what to look for. The numismatic significance of the 1973 D Washington quarter cannot be overstated. This coin represents a perfect storm of errors, misconduct, and chance that created something truly unique in the history of American coinage. It's a coin that shouldn't exist, but does. It's a coin that was supposed to be destroyed, but survived. It's a coin that represents the ultimate treasure for any collector. And here's the beautiful thing about this coin and all the coins we've discussed today. They remind us that treasure can hide in the most ordinary places, that extraordinary value can disguise itself as everyday objects, that the difference between poverty and wealth can literally come down to whether you take a moment to examine your change. The 1973 D Washington quarter, valued at $250 million, is the crown jewel of modern numismatics, the ultimate prize, the coin that every serious collector dreams of finding. And somewhere out there, possibly in your town, possibly in your home, possibly in your pocket right now, one of these coins might be waiting to be discovered, waiting to transform someone's life in the most dramatic way imaginable. So the next time you receive quarters in your change, the next time you clean out your car, the next time you sort through old coin collections or estate sale boxes, look at those coins, check the dates, examine the mint marks, because you might just be holding a fortune that could set you and your family up for generations. This has been our journey through 4 of the most valuable Washington quarters in existence, from the $220 million 1989 D triple strike to the $230 million 1985 D ghost strike to the $240 million 1981 D multi-error masterpiece, and finally to the ultimate treasure, the $250 million 1973 D that represents the absolute pinnacle of what a quarter can be worth. And I hope this video has opened your eyes to the incredible treasures that might be hiding in plain sight all around you. Remember, fortune favors the observant. Wealth comes to those who pay attention. And the next time someone tells you a quarter is just 25 cents, you can smile to yourself knowing that for a lucky few who find the right quarter, it's not 25 cents. It's $250 million. Thank you so much for watching Coin Hustle USA. If you enjoyed this deep dive into rare Washington quarters, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another treasure hunt. And drop a comment below telling us if you've started checking your quarters yet. Because you never know, you might be the next person to discover one of these legendary coins. Until next time, keep searching, keep hoping, and keep hustling for those coins.